India's cost of manufacturing is significantly lower than China. What we need is a more established and resilient supply chain. So efficiencies need to be brought into the system, but from a cost perspective, labor cost perspective, India is very competitive. The other area which is making a lot of sense for Indian exports is pharma. And there, if you look at the US Biosecure Act, that is a massive shot in the arm for Indian pharma sector. We have held ourselves out as pharmacy to the world, but that is really coming into play now as a China substitution or a China plus one play, where the global majors are no longer going to buy the core drugs, the API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, from China. And where else can you find a more dependable supply of pharma ingredients other than India?
But India was already doing a lot when it came to the API supplies to the US, right? I don't have the numbers at the back of my palm. I just want to understand how much scalability is there in competition to China and other players, because I thought India had a sizable presence in that market. So what can India do to further increase its market share in APIs?
So as of last year, China still controls 70% of the global API market. And that's just because of the historicity, long-established supply chains, and the sunk investment over the last 2 decades. Essentially, the global majors, Novartis, Pfizer, Glaxo, none of these companies are adding to their investments in India because of geopolitical, geostrategic reasons. All fresh investments are now going into India. And you know, Tanveer, India is the biggest country outside of the United States, which has the largest number of US FDA-approved manufacturing plants. And particularly when it comes to biosimilars, the new biologics, not just the chemical drugs, but the biologics, India is really achieving a dominant position.
Yeah, and I've just picked up the number. So India is the 3rd largest API manufacturer in the world, accounting for nearly 10% of the global API industry. And I was trying to understand, where do we go from here? And also in terms of FDA-approved facilities in India. And, you know, there was a period of time when there was a rough patch with the FDA in terms of compliance and meeting their quality standards. Do you think that has cleared out, and more and more, I mean, now there is more and more confidence on the part of the FDA to set up more facilities in India and source more from India versus China?
It's a continuing story. See, the trouble is, you know, everything is a normal curve in life. The bottom 5% make the news, and the top 5% make the money. It's the bad players, the bottom 5%, where you will have spurious drugs, FDA sanctions, so on and so forth. But if you look at the big compounding majors, companies like Ajanta Pharma, Divi's Labs, all the companies that are involved in CRAMS, the contract research and manufacturing, they are doing exceedingly well, and they have globally benchmarked service standards, production standards.
Right.
We see a great future for Indian pharma.